Hey guys, it's Coach Herb here, and we're going to dive back into the Reformation today. And last time we talked about Martin Luther's main teachings. We will listen to this rap about his life up into through the Reformation, and we learned kind of why the Reformation came about, but also we talked about why the Martin Luther's impact was so large, and it was the printing press. His 95 Theses really impacted the world because many people were unhappy with the church for political and economic reasons. They saw Luther's protest as a way to challenge church control, and his ideas rapidly spread. And he was kind of astonished by this. And early on, they thought that Luther was really just kind of a rebellious monk who needed to be punished. And so the Pope really didn't do anything. But as Luther's ideas became more popular, they realized the monk that they thought was just rebellious was a more serious threat. In one angry reply to church criticism, Luther actually suggested that Christians drive the Pope from the church by force. The Pope during that time was Pope Leo the Tenth, a Medici, and remember the Renaissance. The Medici were very powerful, and of course they had a lot of money, and so he was the Pope during the height of corruption. And in 1520, he ordered a decree threatening to excommunicate Martin Luther unless he took back his statements. Uh, Luther decides that he's not going to do this. He actually burns the order with his students at a bonfire. As they cheered him on, he threw them into the flames. It kind of looked like this. And so there's Luther burning the order from the Pope, basically telling him, I'm not going to do it. And so the reaction grows even stronger. The Pope couldn't really get him to do what he wanted him to do. So the Holy Roman Emperor steps in. And the Holy Roman Emperor was Charles V. He summoned Luther to the town of Worms. There he was going to stand trial and be asked to recant of his statements. Luther decides in 1521 that he will not recant. He says, I am bound by the scriptures I have quoted, and my conscience is captive to the word of God. I cannot and will not retract anything, since it is neither safe nor right to go against conscience. I cannot do otherwise. Here I stand. May God help me. Amen. So he does not recant. He sticks to what he said. A month later, after Luther made that speech, Charles V issues what is called the Edict of Worms, where Luther is declared an outlaw. We think of outlaws as like Jesse James and bank robbers. So like these, kind of rough around the edges guys. Of course, Luther wasn't that. And he was branded a heretic, which is when we think about heretic, we think of crazy people. But this was anybody that disagreed with the Catholic Church. And so no one in the empire was to give Luther food or shelter. I mean, Charles V is a big, bad guy. He owns probably more land than anybody. Controls all the princes and kingdoms technically in the Holy Roman Empire. He's the Holy Roman Emperor. So people are supposed to listen to him. His books are to be burned. He's not supposed to be given food or shelter, but he gets it. Prince Frederick the Wise of Saxony disobeyed the emperor, and for almost a year after the trial, he sheltered Luther in one of his castles. While there, Luther translates the Bible into German. But eventually he goes home, and he goes back to the University of Wittenberg in 1522. There he discovered that many of his ideas were already being put into practice. And instead of continuing to seek reforms, though, like he had been doing, how he was trying to change the church, they just branch off and become the Lutherans. So a new group is formed, and you have the beginnings of these offshoot Protestant religions. Again, the people really supported Luther, and so you get a peasant reaction as well. They want an end to serfdom. They want to stop having to work the land for all these princes. And so they revolt in 1524, thinking that Luther's going to support them because he said that everyone's equal before God. Well, it really was a religious statement because he did not support the revolution. And the princes actually massacre these people, killing 100,000 of them. And so this idea of this being a revolution of equality throughout the land is not true. It was only for the elite, and it was really only spiritual that their focus was. But that wasn't the only fighting. There was religious wars versus the Lutherans and the Catholics. Many northern German princes supported Luther, and they genuinely shared Luther's beliefs. Others just liked his ideas for political gain. They saw an opportunity to seize church property and break from Charles V. So they were supporting Luther. You had other princes that decided in 1529, the ones that remained loyal, to join. They joined forces against Luther's ideas, and they signed a protest against. Well, the Lutheran princes signed a protest against this agreement, and they were declared Protestants. So you get the name Protestants for the first time because they were protesting against the Catholic Church and they were protesting against this order against Luther. So the term Protestant now stands for any Christian who is not Roman Catholic or Eastern Orthodox. The fighting was pretty intense, and while Charles V went to war against them, and even though he defeated them in 1547, the fighting ended in 1555 with the Peace of Augsburg, which was really a win for the Lutheran princes because they were able to determine their religion in their state based off of what they wanted to decide. So they actually did get some autonomy with this act. So hopefully you understand kind of the reaction to Luther, and of course it's going to get even further as we start talking about the Counter-Reformation tomorrow. But Luther's impact was huge, and you'll see that a little bit in the video at the end. But the changes that came about, we'll see a little bit further on down the line. But Luther really focused in on what he wanted to see changed, and it did have an impact. One man that gained support due to the printing press and due to some opportunity by German princes led to massive changes by the Catholic Church. The next guy we're going to talk about is the interesting story of Henry VIII. Henry VIII was a devout Catholic from the very beginning, called the defender of faith for his political support to the Pope. He actually didn't like Luther at all. He actually had stinging attacks against Luther. However, his faith was soon to be tested. His first wife, and I say first wife, I shouldn't say that, but his wife, Catherine of Aragon, had a daughter, Mary, but no male heir. And if you know anything about male heirs, your line can't continue without a male heir. Your daughter would marry. And a woman had never successfully claimed the English throne. So he kind of was worried this won't happen. He needs a male heir. Well, Catherine, by 1527, he was convinced that Catherine could not have any more children. And so he knew that the only way that he could get a divorce was by asking the Pope. But that's what he wanted. He wanted a divorce from the Pope for a male heir. Political reasons. Guess what? The Pope turned him down. The Pope could annul it or set it aside, but he didn't want to offend Catherine's powerful nephew, the Holy Roman Emperor, Charles V. So, what's King Henry VIII to do? Well, he decides to call on Parliament, calls on the governing body to pass some laws. This Parliament would be called the Reformation Parliament because they passed a set of laws that ended the Pope's power in England and legalized King Henry VIII's divorce from Catherine. So in 1534, they passed the Supremacy Act, and the Supremacy Act basically gave King Henry VIII complete control over the church. He was the head of the Church of England. Also, anyone in England had to take an oath recognizing the divorce and accepting Henry as the head of the church. Anyone that disagreed, like Thomas More, was jailed for treason and eventually executed. So his divorce came about, and he married Anne Boleyn. And Anne Boleyn did not produce a male heir. She produced a daughter, Elizabeth I, that we'll talk about tomorrow. But eventually she was charged with treason because she fell out of favor with King Henry VIII, like Thomas More. And she was imprisoned in the Tower of London and eventually beheaded. So almost at once, Henry took a third wife, Jane Seymour, and he was super happy because guess what? He had a son named Edward. But his happiness was tempered by his wife's death just 2 weeks later. Uh, Henry would go on to marry 3 more times, as it shows here, with Anne of Cleves, Catherine Howard, and Catherine Parr. One divorced, one beheaded, and one the wife of his old age who survived him. Uh, but he had successfully broken from the Catholic Church. He broke away from them. And we'll see that each of his children will have a time to rule in England. Edward became king when he was just 9 years old, too young to rule alone. He was guided by adult advisors, and that would lead to some changes like Protestant leaders to reform the English church. He reigned for just 6 years, and then Mary, the daughter of Catherine, took the throne in 1553. And we'll kind of leave it there because she made some big changes that we're going to see during Queen Elizabeth's reign. And so hopefully you understand the impact that the Reformation is having so far. It's impacting ordinary people. It's giving them more power. It's giving princes more power. It's taking power away from the church and giving it to more worldly organizations and giving them access to more, giving them more knowledge than they've ever had before, and giving them more hope than they've ever had before. Hopefully you've enjoyed watching this video and you have a better understanding of Luther's ideas and his impact and the reaction to his movement, and also King Henry and his unique breakaway from the Catholic Church. But if you have any questions, you can email them to me and make sure that I'll try to make sure that you get that information. If you go to Schoology, your assignment will be there, and we'll go to Schoology, and you'll go to September 9th. If, again, you don't know how to get there, you just quickly do it like this. You go in, you go to weekly units, you go to the second week, and you find Reformation, and then September 9th. And you've already done the first part. You've probably already gone to Google Drive and found this video and did your notes, and you need to make sure you have those and you're studying those for your test. That'll be Friday or Monday. But you need to also use the link below here to access the breakup letter. Today we learned about the split of England and the Catholic Church, and breakups can be tough. You know, I know probably everybody's been through a breakup, and usually they cause a lot of tension between the two parties involved. So a breakup letter can help ease that tension. So your task today is write a breakup letter from King Henry VIII, that should say the 8th, to the Catholic Church or the Pope, letting them down easy. You know what I mean? And so be creative. Use the information you've learned from the notes and the video, and even if you need to go further and do some internet research to better explain why the breakup is happening. So if you click this, you'll get this document. You'll get a page that says make a copy. You're going to want to do that. I've already done it. And so that's here. And then it says breaking up is never easy. It can be harder when it's happening between two regions or two groups of people. Could you imagine if the American colonists had sent a breakup letter to King George III or French revolutionaries to King Louis XVI? For this assignment, you're going to write a breakup letter set during the Reformation from King Henry VIII to the Catholic Church of the Pope. Oh, I got that backwards. And so write a short summary that explains the background of the letter. That's what you're going to do. I've already filled out some of it for you. You're going to write a short summary that explains the backup, important events, years that led to this. So write a short summary of kind of what's going on before all this takes place. Then list 3 reasons why the author wants to break up with the other person. So why does King Henry want to break away from the Catholic Church? 3 reasons there. After you have these two things done, this should be easy. You're going to type your letter here. And so, dear Pope, Catholic Church, date, our date, maybe their date back in their time. And then type your letter here. So, this is King Henry. I'm just thinking it's not working out, blah, blah, blah. You just write your breakup letter there, trying to let the Catholic Church down easy. You can decorate the sides with song lyrics, with different songs that are breakup songs that you may know, just to give it a little bit of flair and pop. You could do it in different colors. You could write it in red and do it that way. It's whatever you want to do. But, just make sure that you are typing there and getting this done. And if there's any questions with this assignment, please email me and let me know, and I will definitely get back to you as soon as I can. I hope that you have a better understanding of the Reformation after today, and I will see you soon. I hope you have a great day.